Greetings, history enthusiasts and curious minds. Welcome to Heretic History, where we unravel the threads of time to explore legacies that transcend centuries. Today, we embark on a profound journey into the lives of past personalities whose teachings, philosophies, and actions continue to inspire, guide, and command reverence in the modern world. From spiritual luminaries to revolutionary thinkers, these figures did not merely exist in their eras. They reshaped human consciousness. Their voices echo through time, and their followers today number in the billions. But what makes their influence so timeless? How do their words still hold sway over hearts, laws, and cultures millennia after their passing? We begin with a figure whose impact is unparalleled. A man whose life redefined morality, governance, and faith, and who remains the most followed personality in human history. Let us turn the pages of time to 7th century Arabia. In the stark, sun-scorched valleys of Mecca, where tribal loyalties were etched deeper than canyon rocks, and the cries of orphaned children drowned in the din of commerce, a man was born whose legacy would transcend time, geography, and human imagination. Muhammad ibn Abdullah Ista'e, the final prophet of Islam, a mercy to all creation, emerged not as a conqueror with an army, but as a reformer with a revelation. To understand his unparalleled influence, we must first step into the Jahiliyyah, the age of ignorance that he transformed forever. In 6th century Arabia, life was a precarious dance of survival. Tribal wars raged over water and honor. Newborn girls were buried alive to avoid shame. The Kaaba, a cube-shaped sanctuary in Mecca, housed 360 idols, a symbol of spiritual fragmentation. Trade caravans fueled exploitation, and the marginalized, orphans, slaves, women had no voice. Into this moral vacuum, Muhammad was born in 570 CE, part of the respected but declining Banu Hashim clan. Orphaned by age 6, he was raised by his grandfather and later his uncle, Abu Talib. Even as a youth, he stood apart. Nicknamed Al-Amin, the trustworthy, merchants competed to leave their goods in his care. At 25, he married Khadija, a wealthy widow 15 years his senior, a union marked by equality and devotion rare for the era. For 15 years, he lived as a merchant, earning respect, but inwardly troubled by Meccan greed and injustice. At 40, during a solitary retreat in the cave of Hira, Muhammad's life changed irrevocably. The angel Gabriel appeared with a command, Iqra, read. Though illiterate, Muhammad recited the first verses of the Quran. Read in the name of your Lord, who created man from a clinging clot. Quran 96-13. This moment marked the birth of Islam, a faith built on Tawhid, monotheism, social justice, and the equality of all believers. The early Quranic verses condemned Meccan excess. Woe to those who give less in trade, who demand others to give in full. Quran 83-13. Muhammad's message was clear: worship the one God, Allah, and dismantle systems of oppression. For 13 years, Muhammad preached in Mecca, facing venomous resistance. The Quraysh tribe, guardians of the Kaaba's lucrative idol trade, mocked him as a poet or madman. Followers like Bilal ibn Rabah, an Abyssinian slave, were tortured. Sumayya bint Kayat became Islam's first martyr, speared for refusing to renounce her faith. Yet the Prophet's resolve never wavered. When offered wealth and power to abandon his mission, he replied, "If they placed the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left, I would not leave this cause." His uncle Abu Lahab publicly disowned him, while his wife Khadija and cousin Ali became his first supporters. The Meccan years forged Islam's core tenets: patience, sabr, trust in God, tawakkul, and the promise of accountability in the hereafter. In 622 CE, after surviving assassination attempts, Muhammad and his followers migrated to Yathrib, later Madinat and Nabi, city of the Prophet. The Hijra marked year 1 of the Islamic calendar and the birth of the first Muslim state. In Medina, Muhammad drafted the Constitution of Medina, a revolutionary document recognizing Jews, Christians, and polytheists as equal citizens, dhimmi, under a pluralistic government. It stated, "The Jews of Banu Auf are one community with the believers, to each their religion and their property." For the first time, tribes united under law, not blood. Here, Islam's spiritual and social frameworks took shape. 5 daily prayers, a rhythm connecting believers to God and community. Zakat, almsgiving, a 2.5% wealth tax to eradicate poverty. Fasting, Ramadan, a month of self-purification and empathy. Women's rights, Quranic verses banned female infanticide, granted inheritance rights, and required consent for marriage. The Meccan elite, threatened by Islam's growth, waged war. At the Battle of Badr, 624 CE, 313 ill-armed Muslims defeated a Meccan army 3 times their size. Yet victory did not embitter Muhammad. After the Battle of Uhud, 625 CE, where Muslims suffered heavy losses, he forbade retaliation against Meccan bodies, stating, "Do not mutilate. Even in war, uphold dignity." In 628 CE, he signed the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, a 10-year truce with Mecca that seemed to favor the Quraysh. Critics protested, but Muhammad's foresight prevailed. The treaty allowed Islam to spread peacefully, doubling conversions. When Mecca later violated the pact, he marched with 10,000 men, not for vengeance, but amnesty. In 630 CE, he entered Mecca unopposed, declaring, "No reproach shall be on you today. God forgives you. He is the most merciful." In 632 CE, during his farewell pilgrimage, Muhammad delivered a speech atop Mount Arafat to 100,000 followers, a manifesto for all time. Equality. No Arab is superior to a non-Arab, no white over black, nor man over woman, except by piety. Human rights. Your lives, property, and honor are sacred. Stewardship. Protect the earth. It is your mother. Unity. I leave you the Quran and my sunnah. Hold fast to them. 3 months later, he passed away in Medina. His final words, "The best of you are those who are kindest to their wives." Over 1.9 billion Muslims across 200 nations revere Muhammad, not just as a prophet, but as al-Insan al-Kamil, the perfect human. His teachings permeate daily life. Rituals. From the Adhan, call to prayer, echoing over Jakarta, to Ramadan's global fast. Law. Islamic finance bans interest. Halal dietary codes shape a $2 trillion industry. Science. His injunction to seek knowledge even unto China inspired the Golden Age's innovations in algebra, medicine, and astronomy. Even non-Muslims acknowledge his impact. Writer Michael H. Hart ranked him #1 in the 100 most influential persons in history, noting, "He was the only man in history who achieved supreme success in both religion and secular realms." Yet Muhammad's greatest triumph lies in the preservation of his message. The Quran remains unchanged since its revelation, memorized by millions. Hafiz. His sayings, hadith, meticulously vetted by scholars, guide ethics from childbirth to death. In a world of fleeting trends, his example, rooted in compassion, justice, and humility, offers an anchor. From the deserts of Arabia to the skyscrapers of Dubai, from the mosques of Istanbul to the streets of Detroit, Muhammad's call, La ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah, resounds. Critics may debate him, but history cannot erase him. For as long as a single believer bows in prayer or feeds the hungry in his name, the Prophet's revolution lives on. A testament that one man's truth can outlast empires. From the deserts of Arabia, we journey to the rocky hills of Judea, where another spiritual giant walked the earth, a man whose name is whispered in prayers, sung in hymns, and etched into the very fabric of Western civilization. Jesus of Nazareth, the central figure of Christianity, was born in Bethlehem over 2 millennia ago. To his followers, he is the Son of God. To historians, a revolutionary rabbi whose teachings upended societal norms and ignited a faith that now claims 2.4 billion adherents worldwide. His story begins humbly: a birth in a manger, a childhood in obscurity, and a ministry that began at age 30. Jesus preached a radical message of love. Love your neighbor as yourself, turn the other cheek, and blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. These words, delivered in parables and sermons, like the iconic Sermon on the Mount, challenged the rigid hierarchies of Roman-occupied Judea. He dined with outcasts, healed the sick, and championed the poor, declaring, "It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God." But his defiance of authority came at a cost. Betrayed by Judas Iscariot, Jesus was crucified under Pontius Pilate, a death meant to erase his influence. Instead, it became the cornerstone of his legacy. Followers believed he resurrected, conquering death itself, and his apostles spread his teachings across continents. The New Testament, chronicling his life and letters, became the world's most translated book. Today, Jesus' influence is omnipresent. The Gregorian calendar marks his birth. Hospitals and charities bear his name. From the Catholic Mass to Protestant hymns, from Orthodox icons to evangelical revivals, his call for redemption and grace resonates. Even secular societies uphold his ideals: human dignity, forgiveness, and selflessness as universal virtues. Yet, Jesus' legacy is not without complexity. Crusades, inquisitions, and sectarian divisions have stained his message of peace. But for millions, he remains the Prince of Peace, a shepherd guiding souls through modern chaos. As the poet Alexander Pope wrote, "A God who can be loved is a God who understands." Our next figure, however, sought enlightenment not through divine revelation, but through introspection. A prince who abandoned royalty to answer life's deepest sorrows. Long before the rise of monotheistic faiths, in the lush plains of ancient India, a prince named Siddhartha Gautama embarked on a quest that would redefine spirituality. Shielded from suffering in his palace, Siddhartha's first encounters with old age, sickness, and death shattered his illusions of permanence. At 29, he renounced his throne, becoming a wandering ascetic, a journey that culminated under the Bodhi tree, where he attained nirvana and became the Buddha, the awakened one. His revelation was simple yet profound. Life is suffering, and suffering stems from desire. The Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path he taught. Right understanding, intention, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and concentration offered a roadmap to transcend pain without reliance on gods or rituals. Buddhism spread like wildfire. Emperor Ashoka the Great, repentant after a bloody conquest, turned it into a global faith. From the monasteries of Sri Lanka to the Zen gardens of Japan, from Tibetan mountaintops to Silicon Valley mindfulness apps, Buddha's teachings adapt yet endure. Over 500 million followers today meditate on his words, seeking peace in a world of noise. But Buddha's genius lay in his accessibility. He asked no blind faith, only self-inquiry. Be your own lamp. His doctrine of ahimsa, nonviolence, inspired Mahatma Gandhi. His psychology of the mind predated Freud by millennia. Even atheists embrace his philosophy, proof that enlightenment transcends dogma. As we move westward, we encounter a thinker who shaped empires with ethics, not sermons, a man whose rules of conduct still govern millions in East Asia. From the meditative silence of Buddhism, we journey to the bustling courts of ancient China, where a teacher's wisdom laid the groundwork for a civilization. Confucius, or Confuci, was born in 551 BCE during the Zhou dynasty's decline, a time of warring states and moral decay. A humble bureaucrat turned philosopher, he sought not to found a religion, but to answer one question: how can humanity thrive in harmony? His answer lay in ethics, relationships, and duty. The five constants: benevolence, Ren; righteousness, Y; propriety, Li; wisdom, Ji; and integrity, Sin, became pillars of East Asian thought. Do not impose on others what you do not wish for yourself, he taught, a golden rule centuries before Christ. Confucius' ideas were revolutionary. He democratized education, declaring, in teaching, there should be no distinction of class, and emphasized merit over nobility. Though rejected by rulers in his lifetime, his disciples compiled his teachings into the Analects, a text that would shape China's imperial exams, governance, and family values for 2,000 years. Today, Confucianism is woven into the fabric of East Asia. In South Korea, ancestral rites, Jesa, honor his emphasis on filial piety. In Singapore, his principles guide national policy. Even China's modern leadership invokes harmonious society, a nod to his vision. Beyond politics, Confucian values thrive in business ethics, education, and the quiet respect of a bow. Yet Confucius was no rigid traditionalist. He believed in growth. If you make a mistake and do not correct it, that is called a real mistake. His legacy is a testament to adaptability, an ancient voice still counseling moderation in an era of excess. But as we cross continents, we meet a philosopher who traded harmony for questioning, a man who declared, "The unexamined life is not worth living." In the heart of classical Athens, where democracy was born, a stout, barefoot man wandered the streets, challenging every assumption. Socrates, the father of Western philosophy, never wrote a word. Yet his method of relentless inquiry, what is justice? What is courage? Ignited a flame that still lights the path of critical thought. Born to a stone mason in 469 BCE, Socrates fought as a soldier before devoting his life to philosophy. His Socratic method, asking questions to expose contradictions, made him beloved by youth and despised by elites. He criticized Athenian democracy's flaws, quipping, "No man undertakes a trade he has not learned, yet everyone thinks themselves qualified to lead the state." Accused of corrupting the youth and impiety, Socrates was sentenced to death in 399 BCE. His refusal to flee, documented in Plato's Crito, became a manifesto for intellectual courage. It is better to suffer wrong than to do wrong. By drinking hemlock, he immortalized the principle that ideas outlive their creators. Today, his legacy is omnipresent. Universities enshrine his method. The scientific revolution owes him debt. Modern law, ethics, and psychology trace roots to his dialogues. Even Silicon Valley's question everything ethos echoes his spirit. In a world of echo chambers, Socrates' defiance of complacency remains urgent. Yet his story is a cautionary tale. Societies often silence those who ask too much. But as we'll see, some voices grow louder with time. Amid the roar of 20th century industrialization and the clatter of colonial oppression, a man in hand-spun cloth taught the world that quiet resolve could shake empires. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, later hailed as Mahatma, Great Soul, was born in 1869 in British-ruled India. A timid boy who feared the dark, he would grow into a global symbol of resistance, proving that truth and nonviolence are not passive virtues, but the sharpest tools of revolution. Gandhi's awakening began in South Africa. As a young lawyer, he faced racial humiliation on a train platform, an incident that ignited his lifelong fight against injustice. There, he forged Satyagraha, a philosophy of civil disobedience rooted in courage and compassion. An eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind, he declared, urging followers to be the change they wish to see. Returning to India in 1915, Gandhi transformed the independence struggle. His campaigns were masterclasses in symbolism. spinning keddy to defy British textiles, marching 240 miles to make salt from the sea, fasting to heal communal riots. The 1930 Salt March, a 24-day pilgrimage to Dandi, exposed the absurdity of colonial taxes and electrified global media. Millions joined him, not with weapons, but with willpower. His influence transcended borders. Martin Luther King Jr. called Gandhi's teachings the guiding light of our technique of nonviolent social change. Nelson Mandela, Cesar Chavez, and Aung San Suu Kyi walked his path. Climate activists today invoke his ethos of simplicity. Human rights movements mirror his grassroots organizing. Even his personal quirks, vegetarianism, silence Mondays, interfaith prayers, are blueprints for mindful rebellion. Yet Gandhi was no myth. His experiments with celibacy, his early racial biases, and his complex stance on caste remain debated. But his core truth endures: the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. In an age of division, his life whispers that unity is not naivety, it is the ultimate audacity. As we near the end of our journey, we turn to a figure who defied not just empires, but the limits of age and gender. A warrior saint who walked through fire. In the twilight of the Middle Ages, as France bled under English occupation, an illiterate 17-year-old peasant girl rewrote history with nothing but a banner, a sword, and unbreakable faith. Jeanne d'Arc, known to us as Joan of Arc, was born in 1412 in Domremy, a village scorched by the 100 Years' War. Her story is one of divine madness, battlefield brilliance, and a martyrdom that turned a shepherdess into a legend. At 13, Joan began hearing voices, Saints Michael, Catherine, and Margaret, urging her to liberate France. By 17, she convinced the disinherited Prince Charles VII to grant her an army. Clad in white armor, she lifted the siege of Orleans in just 9 days, a victory that shattered England's momentum. Months later, she stood in Reims Cathedral as Charles was crowned king, her banner bearing the words, Jesus, Maria. But Joan's meteoric rise through envy. Captured by Burgundian allies of the English, she endured a rigged trial for heresy and cross-dressing. Her interrogators mocked her visions. "Does God speak to you in French?" she was asked. "Yes, and better than you," she retorted. Condemned to the stake in 1431, her final words were a prayer, her gaze fixed not on the flames, but on the future. Joan's legacy is a kaleidoscope of contradictions. The church that burned her canonized her in 1920. Feminists reclaim her as a proto-iconoclast who shattered gender roles. Soldiers hailed her as a patron of valor. Artists from Mark Twain to Carl Theodor Dreyer have wrestled with her mystique. Was she a prophetess, a schizophrenic, or a political genius? Her answer, perhaps, lies in her own defiance. "I am not afraid. I was born to do this." In an era of doubt, Joan's certainty, flawed, fiery, and utterly human, reminds us that conviction can bend the arc of history. Her life, cut short at 19, is a testament to the power of believing beyond reason. From the deserts of Arabia to the battlefields of medieval France, these 8 luminaries have guided us through a tapestry of time. Each thread a lesson, each color a revolution of the human spirit. They were mortals, flawed and fragile, yet their lives became compasses for billions. Why? What binds Hazrat Muhammad's quest for equality to Gandhi's march for freedom? Joan of Arc's fiery conviction to Socrates' relentless questions. The answer lies in moral courage, the audacity to stand alone for what is right. These figures did not merely preach. They lived their truths, even when it cost them everything. The Prophet Muhammad faced exile for defending the marginalized. Socrates chose death over silence. Joan of Arc, barely an adult, stared down a tribunal of men who mocked her voice. Their power was not in their swords or sermons, but in their refusal to bend to the tyranny of the ordinary. Yet their legacies also share a paradox. They sought not followers, but awakened minds. Buddha urged disciples to be lamps unto yourselves. Jesus warned, "Why do you call me Lord, yet not do as I say?" Confucius preached action, not adoration. Their teachings survived not because they were frozen in dogma, but because they evolved, adapting to new cultures, technologies, and crises. Today, their voices are more urgent than ever. In a world fractured by division, their messages of unity, Amma, Sangha, Kingdom of God, call us to see beyond borders. In an age of excess, their examples of simplicity, Gandhi's loincloth, Muhammad's modest meals, challenge our obsession with consumption. And in an era of noise, their emphasis on introspection, Socratic dialogue, Buddhist meditation, offers sanctuary for the soul. But history's giants were not sculpted by destiny alone. They were shaped by us, the followers who carried their torches. You, the viewer, are part of this chain. When you choose mercy over vengeance, truth over convenience, or justice over complacency, you walk in their footsteps. You prove that their light has not dimmed, it has multiplied. So let us end with a question. Who will be the next immortal? In 1,000 years, which of today's voices will still whisper wisdom? The answer lies not in the past, but in the choices we make now. As Gandhi said, the future depends on what you do today. If this journey through time has ignited your curiosity, you're not alone. Here at your channel name, we believe history isn't just about dates and dust. It's about the souls who teach us how to live. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to join our community of seekers. Every click fuels our mission to unearth stories that matter. Like this video. Smash the thumbs up. It helps others find our channel. Have a personality you'd like us to feature? Let us know in the comments. And if you'd like to support deeper dives into history, consider becoming a member or sharing this video with a friend. Thank you for watching, learning, and keeping these legacies alive. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and remember, you too are part of history in the making.